The Caitlin Clark stimulus package, also known as the newly agreed upon CBA deal. Make no mistake about it, folks. Every time the owners came to the table and said, fine, we'll increase the salary cap to this, you can thank Caitlin Clark. Every time the owner said, fine, we'll pay for your housing again, you can thank Caitlin Clark. Every time the owner said, shoot, we really don't want to come up off this 15% number, but you know what? We'll move a little bit. You can thank CC22.
A'ja Wilson was surprised. Nobody who spent 2 years telling themselves that the Caitlin Clark issue was overstated, that the frenzy was a media invention, that the viewership would cool, and that this league had actual stars before Clark arrived and would continue without all the noise. No one saw this coming since the WNBA just ratified the biggest collective bargaining deal in professional women's basketball history.
A'ja Wilson and all her Glazers could give a big thank you to Caitlin Clark for her getting paid. Ever since the league came to an agreement, all we've been hearing about is how A'ja Wilson is about to sign this historic Supermax deal like she just did it all on her own. No, you could thank Caitlin Clark for revolutionizing the game so you could get paid. We don't care how many MVPs and championships A'ja won or how she was already known. It doesn't matter. She didn't change the dynamic of the league for the players to get paid like this.
Salary cap increased from $1.5 million to $7 million. The average player wage rose from $120,000 to over $600,000. The minimum pay exceeded $300,000. This league's veterans have fought for these figures since before Caitlin Clark was in high school. Clark's $78,066 in 2025 to $530,000 in 2026 was the first amount posted. The building is burning.
For example, 2024 Rookie of the Year Caitlin Clark, who made $78,066 in 2025, is poised to see her salary jump to $530,000 in 2026. So this year, she is about to jump to that salary, okay? Now, the other jump, the new provision would also be applicable to younger stars such as Aaliyah Boston, who is max eligible in 2026, and Paige Beckers, who is max eligible in 20.
The facts are here. Everyone in women's basketball knew the WNBA and Players Association would negotiate for 17 months. The old CBA was a relic. It was a structure constructed for a league that was grinding for significance, not one that was breaking viewership records, selling out arenas and markets that had not filled seats in years, and producing broadcast rights packages that would have been laughed out of the room 5 years before. And at the core of all of that progress, every indicator that mattered, every room where executives were suddenly paying attention was one player.
The reason why they had the battery in the back that they had was because of Caitlin Clark's impact. All of the numbers and the metrics that the players could point to, do you see these ratings? Well, Caitlin Clark effect. Do you see this attendance? Well, Caitlin Clark effect. Do you see the social media impressions? Well, Caitlin Clark effect. This is called the Caitlin Clark stimulus package, and it will go down as...
So when the new CBA landed in March 2026, it came with a system nobody wanted to officially name after a single individual. They termed it the EPIC provision. Exceptional performance on initial contract, a fast-track wage structure designed for players who disrupt the financial landscape of the league before their rookie agreement expires. Caitlin Clark's name does not appear in the official text of that clause. It did not need to. Everyone in every boardroom in women's basketball knew exactly who they were constructing it around. The EPIC provision is the WNBA's method of declaring quietly, formally, in writing music, that not all players are the same. Some players require separate documentation.
So this WNBA collective bargaining agreement will fast-track the ability for players on a rookie scale contract to make maximum and supermax salaries, sources told ESPN. The new provision, called EPIC, Exceptional Performance on Initial Contract, allows players to renegotiate their 4-year salary and earn the standard max that year if they were previously an all WNBA first team or second team, or the Supermax if they won the MVP.
Let's put the numbers on the table because the numbers are the only thing that tells this narrative honestly and without softening the edges. In 2025, Caitlin Clark, the player who propelled the WNBA beyond 1 million viewers per game for the first time since 2008, the player who sold out enemy venues in cities that had not filled seats in a decade. The player whose name on a schedule moved broadcast ratings by a margin that every other player in the league combined could not approach, earned $78,066. $78,000. That is roughly what a mid-level paralegal earns. That is roughly what an entry-level marketing coordinator makes sitting behind a desk in a location no one visits on vacation. It is not even close to the initial wage of a rookie entering the NBA, the NFL, or Major League Baseball. Meanwhile, Clark was setting assist records and selling jerseys and putting cameras on women's basketball that had not been there in a generation. She was performing stuff this league had literally never seen before. And the league was handing her a payment that would not cover 2 months of rent on a quality apartment in Indianapolis. That is not a salary. That is a league hoping its most significant asset would not do the math. She did the math. The entire sports world did the math. And the new CBA is the league's formal public long overdue recognition that they have no choice left but to do it too.
So what has now happened is, because of the quote-unquote epic rule, I'm going to call it the Caitlin rule, because let's be real, she was the first person to have reached this. Whether it be it's Caitlin, Aaliyah, and Paige are all eligible. I'm just going to call it the Caitlin rule. Just like the Rose rule in the NBA, we're going to call it the Caitlin rule. So ironically, if Caitlin goes and wins MVP this year, she's actually eligible for the Supermax in 2020.
Now, in 2026, that changes. Clark's pay climbs to $530,000, a raise of more than 500%. More than 6 times what she was making last season. And before anyone starts thanking the NFL for finally getting it right, pause. Because that $530,000 is still the greatest team sports discount in the modern period, and it is not especially close. While the WNBA was paying her $78,000, Clark was bringing in $16.1 million in total profits in 2025 alone. Salary, endorsements, appearances, speaking fees, commercial deals, the complete empire. Nike, State Farm, Gatorade, Wilson, HY. She is the 6th highest paid female athlete on the planet. In 2025, at maximum scale of her earning ability, the WNBA's payout to her accounted for less than 0.5% of her overall income. The league was obtaining franchise-level services at a price that no business school professor can explain without sounding physically uncomfortable. The spike to $530,000 is real. It is welcome. It is earned 10 times over, and it still does not reflect what Clark is genuinely worth to every broadcast network, every sponsor, and every venue that sells out the moment her name appears on the away calendar. The rise is hardly justice. It is just the least the league could do, without embarrassing itself more.
The way the team is structured, in order for this team to remain intact, Sophie would have to be willing to take a league minimum kind of deal, which is around $300,000. And I don't see that happening. Okay. And I believe also people are going to be shocked how much money Lexi Hull is about to be offered, because I think she's going to get offered $600,000 to $700,000 by somebody. And that is going to greatly complicate things.
But here is where the story stops seeming like a celebration and starts feeling like a chess puzzle. Because when Clark's compensation goes from $78,000 to $530,000, the money does not fall from the sky. It comes out of a salary cap. The WNBA's new salary cap rests at $7 million. That is the full payroll budget the Indiana Fever have to build a competitive basketball squad with. Not only for Clark, for everyone. Every player from starter to the end of the bench has to fit inside $7 million. And Clark now consumes more than 7% of that quota on her current deal alone before any extensions, before the max agreements, before the summer decisions that will define what type of squad Indiana can feasibly assemble around her. There is a phrase for what happens to a salary cap when your franchise player finally gets appropriately compensated and 3 other cornerstone players are all due extensions in the same window. That word is squeeze. And the Fever are about to experience every inch of it.
I wish they would have had Kelsey Mitchell on here, because after last season, I mean, look, Kelsey finished what, 3rd or 4th in the MVP voting? This is her contract to make as much money as she possibly can, I believe, in this league. And come next year, because I don't think that the Fever are going to be able to keep her next season. And one could argue, depending on how much you covet depth on a team, like how deep do you want your team to be? I think one could argue against re-signing Kelsey Mitchell this year.
Let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell, since Mitchell is the conversation the national media continues undervaluing. She is one of the most dangerous scoring guards in this league. She is the 2nd best player on the Indiana Fever, and she is standing at a contract crossroads that the new CBA recently made much more expensive to navigate. Mitchell was a free agency before the 2025 season, and Indiana used the core designation to lure her back on a 1-year deal under the new CBA. If the Fever core Mitchell again in 2026, which remains their most probable shorter move, her compensation climbs to $1.4 million, a supermax contract, which is perfectly right for a player of her caliber. It is also 20% of Indiana's whole $7 million cap on one player who is not Caitlin Clark. At the same time, Aaliyah Boston is max eligible this offseason, and Clark herself under the Epic provision qualifies for a 3-year max deal worth $1.3 million in 2027, increasing toward a $1.7 million supermax extension in 2028. Run those calculations slowly. Clark at $1.3 million. Boston at max, Mitchell at a $1.4 million supermax. Just those 3 players swallow more than half of Indiana's overall cap. More than half before they add a backup point guard, before they fill the forward rotation, before they establish any of the depth that differentiates excellent teams from championship teams. That is the math the Fever's front office is facing at. That is what a historic wage boost looks like from the inside of a $7 million budget.
I want Kelsey Mitchell to take a 1-year deal instead of a multi-year deal due to this. Aaliyah Boston is eligible for the Supermax this year. The following year, Caitlin Clark is eligible for a Supermax, which could be worth $1.7 million, actually close to $2 million. So who are you going to invest in? Kelsey Mitchell or Caitlin Clark? And that's why I say, don't play this game, Fever. I'm talking to organizations. I'm talking to Amber Cox, Kelly Crosskoff, and definitely Stephanie White. Don't mess this up. Please, for the love of God, do not mess this up. I don't mind if Kelsey Mitchell comes back for 1 year, but 1 year only.
This is a typical small cap squeeze, and professional sports has told this narrative before, many times in many locations across every major league that has ever had a franchise player worth more than the team's total salary. You construct something electric. You identify the core. The star earns the raise she deserves. A raise that is fan-driven, revenue-driven, and justified by every number on every spreadsheet in the building. And then the arithmetic catches up with the dream. The supporting cast starts to disperse because the cap cannot hold everyone at market rate simultaneously. Role players get priced out. Depth vanishes. The club that was winning games with 10 excellent contributors and a hungry bench starts to seem thinner as each offseason passes, and another contract decision demands another heartbreaking goodbye. The Clark rise is deserved. The cap squeeze is coming. Those two things are not in conflict with each other. They are the same story told from two distinct views.
We're tired of the mindset of just be grateful for what you have. No, we need to dive into it. We need to have better workplaces, practice facilities, and it's not just for the women of the league now. We're talking about the women coming up, the future.
Right,
we want them to have a safe space to where they can perform at a high level and get that revenue share and to live on a salary that is what they've earned.
That's livable.
That is
So
livable.
you don't have to go over to Europe, go to other places.
Absolutely.
And then there is Asia Wilson, because no serious talk about money, and the WNBA ever gets to skip past Asia Wilson. She is a two-time MVP. She is an Olympic gold medalist. She is a WNBA champion. She is one of the most decorated players in the history of this league, and she has the trophy cabinet to show it. And she has spent the last 2 years watching Clark arrive, flip the economics of women's basketball entirely upside down, and collect the kind of commercial deals, national visibility, and financial recognition that Wilson, despite every honor on her resume, has never come close to matching off the court. When Sportico published their year-end top-paid athlete report in 2025, and Clark showed at $16.1 million, while Wilson was not even featured, the irritation from Wilson's direction was tough to ignore. Cryptic social media posts with enough subtext to say everything without technically saying anything. Interview replies with just enough sharpness to make every journalist in the room understand exactly what was going unsaid. Wilson spent months blogging about delayed success and denied recognition, and everyone watching understood just who those messages were about. She has been one of the fiercest champions for wage equity in this league for years. And now, the new CBA, the accord she and every veteran fought hard to acquire, arrives, and its most prominent headline is a player with 2 years of professional experience being the highest paid player in league history. That is a very tough thing to digest with grace.